In 2010, the group produced guidance notes which are available on the DCED website on how donor agencies can best support business environment reform in developing and transitioning countries. And this has become a useful reference point for the further work of the group. In the last 18 months, the group's also done a review of how donors are supporting business environment reform in 3 countries. That was done in Kenya, in Rwanda and in Bangladesh. There are country reports available on the DCED website for that, as well as a sort of synthesis summary report. And some of the questions that came up in those reviews were around how are results being measured. And it seems that a lot of agencies are becoming much more aware, of course, of the need to measure results in private sector development, and particularly in business environment reform. How do you connect improvements in the policy, legal or regulatory environment to larger scale development outcomes, like jobs, like economic growth, like poverty reduction? I think it's useful to identify 2 kinds of results measurement that we're interested in. The first kind is, how does a better business environment help with other development outcomes? How does a better business environment lead to economic growth, job creation, poverty reduction? How does, for example, a more transparent government, a more accountable government, improved regulations contribute to these development outcomes? So that's one level. The second level is, how does support for business environment reform contribute to those outcomes? So if donors are putting money and technical assistance and other things into a program to support business environment reform, how is that support adding value to what host governments are doing? And so that's in second level, if you like, that just equally important, if not more important for us, is to determine how effectively can we support governments in doing this. And I say this because this is different to many other aspects of private sector development, because only governments can improve the business environment. It's governments who set the rules and regulations and the policies, and so we can only help governments do this. We can't do it ourselves. We can bring other civil society partners in, we can help business come and advocate, we can help unions come and advocate and bring other people to the table, but the real agents of change are government, and so we have to support them. We've had 3 programs present here. One is the Bangladesh Investment Climate Fund, and they talked about how their results measurement framework has been in place. We've had Harakat, the Afghan Investment Climate Fund, talk about their results framework. And we've had Trademark East Africa, a regional program in East Africa, talk about their frameworks for measuring results. So we've learned about the successes and challenges that they've had. We've then also had some headquarter representatives of donor agencies talk about the challenges that they find in doing this work and the demand that they have on them for better connection between supporting reforms and reducing poverty, for example. And now we're trying to see where the gaps are and see where the challenges are. And we're now trying to get a program of work for the DCED more clearly defined, which looks at how we can explore these areas more carefully. The areas that we're seeing that are coming out of this is, firstly, how do we get a model for change? How do we start to see where donor support or other support for reforms can create change that will lead to the outcomes we want? Is there a model for that? Are there ways of better understanding that connection? We have results chains, but can we take those results chains further? Can we elaborate more on them? Is it possible to do that? And then the second area is around the indicators that we use. We found many programs rely on a fairly narrow set of indicators, although there's a lot of indicators, so somehow we need to look at that. A lot of the indicators that agencies and programs use are very quantitative, so they will talk about the reduced numbers of steps, or they will talk about the reduced costs, or these kinds of things, but they don't talk about, for example, the quality of regulation. Is it possible for us to begin to assess changes in the quality of regulation, and the quality of jobs is the other issue that comes up in some of our discussions. There's a lot of reliance on the doing business reports, and of course there's a lot of problems with relying solely on those reports. So are there other international benchmarks that can be used? So this is the second area of investigation that we think we'll try to pursue. So this seminar has been very useful for us to put some of these issues on the table, to try and identify where some of the priority areas for action might be, and we hope to now take those issues further in some sort of agenda item for further work by the donor committee.